Echoes in the Void. Yo, what's up? It's someone that's no one, and welcome back to today's report. Today's report was sent in by thahrimdon Ian, where he took 3-HO PCP and a handful of other things leading up to it. And here's the full report details. Okay, so here we have quite an intense dissociative trip with the substance 3-HO PCP. This is our first time talking about this substance, as it is a somewhat obscure research chemical. Nonetheless, this was sent to us, and I'm always happy to cover something new. To give you an idea, it's somewhat comparable to actual PCP, or phencyclidine, though the binding affinity doesn't appear to be nearly as strong. Instead, there is some significant opioid activity going on, so there most likely is a strong dopamine response and bodily high to be found. So it's a dissociative like PCP with some depressant opiate-like effects just based on the activity. But this report is of a strong dose, and it most likely was influenced by the other things he took beforehand. Either way, I'm sure you'll enjoy this one. We'll break this down more in the future, so without further ado, let's dive right into this. "3-HO PCP Horror Trip." This story begins in the midst of an extreme bender involving multiple drugs and RCs. I was pretty barred out from Clonazolam, and decided to do 3-HO PCP since it has mu opioid receptor activity. The reason being that I ran out of opioids the day before. Although I knew that 20 milligrams was a high dose, I said, fuck it, and snorted the whole 20 milligrams. 10 minutes later, in my barred out, uninhibited state, I decided it wasn't working. So I did what any smart person would do. More 3-HO PCP. I weighed out another 20 milligrams and snorted it. I began to feel the effects, but grew impatient, and decided to snort another 20 milligrams. 60 milligrams at this point. From there, I lay down in my bed and simply wait. I remember blacking out and waking up sometime later. Except I didn't wake up to the reality I'm used to. I woke up to what seemed like a surgical room with mannequins around me, kind of like the scene from Insidious. They were all smiling at me with their surgical tools, which horrified me. However, I felt oddly content in my confused daze and just accepted it. I was on the operating table with them staring at me for what seemed like an eternity. Suddenly, it all goes black. I'm immersed in this world of complete pleasure and euphoria. I don't think I have ever felt that good in my life. All of a sudden, I felt like my entire soul and euphoria got sucked out of the back of my head. I felt like Neo first entering the Matrix. It's like I got sucked out of my body into the depths of hell. Within a split second, I went from feeling absolutely amazing, as if I were in heaven, to feeling if I had died and was in the pits of hell. I genuinely thought I had died, and was extremely terrified through my haze and confusion. I recall screaming at the top of my lungs, not knowing whether I screamed in real life or this new fantasy world. I eventually accepted my new reality that I had killed myself. After all this, it suddenly goes black, and I wake up into the real world. It's been ages. At least that's what it felt like. I was still extremely dissociated. I get up to walk to my bathroom, and it feels like I'm spinning in circles, and can barely stand up at all, let alone walk. Everything seems so far away, and I can barely move my legs. Finally, step by step, and a good amount of time later, I plopped down on my toilet seat. I was in my bathroom where I pondered deeply about what just occurred. It eventually wore off, and I went to sleep. I woke up feeling reborn, and like I had been rid of all my demons. It was roughly as strong as a light DMT trip, 30 milligrams or less, but more sinister and confusing. I immediately stopped my bender, CT'd everything, and went sober. In the long run, I feel like it did me well. Up until that point, I had been an extremely responsible researcher. This experience showed me the true horrors of not being responsible with certain substances. I'm positive that this wouldn't have happened without the aid of clonazepam. Moral of the story: be extra responsible and meticulous with powerful substances active in the subgram, sub-milligram range. I don't blame the substances in the slightest. The fault is all mine for not respecting these chemicals as they should have been. There's a fair amount of sarcasm in this post that should not be taken literally. I do not intend for anyone to recreate this experience. Stay safe, fellow researchers.